Everyone, welcome to today's session. So let me tell you about what are the things we have covered so far in the previous sessions. We have gone through what is Python, then the implementations basically, then Python features, input and output operations, and we are familiar with various types of print, and then input functions, taking single value as actually argument in real time, and then using split for splitting multiple values and assigning it to the variables. Then I told you about a Python character set, and ideally this alignment is little different over here. I'll just do one thing. So tokens, under tokens we have identifiers, keywords, and literals. So what is identifiers? The identifiers are nothing but the variable names, function names, class names. These are like identifiers. Any object you are actually giving a name, that becomes an identifier. Okay, and then the keywords, we have actually written a program and then to understand what are the available. So now here you can see the keywords, and then literals. Literals are nothing but the values. For example, if you want to actually understand now what is literal, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about literals. The literals in Python are actually various types. The first one is Boolean. The Boolean literal can be true or false. Then we do have numeric. Under numeric, the basic ones are actually integer, that is int, then float, and then we have complex. I'll tell you, I'll give you an example of complex. Complex numbers are ideally used for mathematical operations. If you're trying to find out the root of a for example, arithmetic expression and all, then you can actually use complex. Or else in the real time, let's say if you are building business specific applications, you may not deal with the complex numbers. Anyway, I'll just give an example to understand that. Then we do have octal, and we do have hexadecimal. And these are the edge cases. Again, octal and hexadecimal, maybe very rare cases you will be actually using it, but it's good to know. Octal and hexadecimal, these two. Okay, we can actually cover through an example, but again, real-time implementation depends on the scope of your automation. Then we do have one type of literal that is known as string. And string could be a single line string or a multi-line string. Okay, so then we do have collections. Collection is nothing but collection of elements. Okay, let's say for example, in other programming languages, we do have collections, we do have arrays and all these things, right? So here we call it as collections. Under collections, I'm just talking about literals. Don't be confused about the data type and literals. I'll just tell you in some time what is the difference between the literals and the data types. Okay, now collections. Under collections, we do have list, tuple, and then dictionary, and then we do have set. In Python, we do have a special type of literal. One special type literal is none. A none is a keyword, as true and false, T should be capital case, here F should be capital case. Similarly, none should be capital case. Okay, we'll tell you now what is the real-time examples of non-data type. Now let me tell you, let's say variable equals to 10 over here. In this case, we call 10 as literal. Which type of literal is it? This is a numeric type literal. So this is known as literal. Let's say for example, I have a list 1 equals to, let's say here I'm just giving A, then I can give here Subbu, I can give here 100. This is a list which is containing various type of data. One is, in this case, A is a string, Subbu is a string, 100 is a number. You can also add a floating point number here. Let's say 12.3. This becomes a floating point number. You want to have a Boolean number in the list, we can actually define as true. You need a like in a special type number, so special data type, that is actually none. You can specify this. But what kind of literal is this? This entire thing is a list which is having various literals, that is A is of string type, Subbu is of string type, 100 is of numeric type, 12.3 is actually again numeric type, and under numeric we are having float. So this is actually falling under the category numeric again. True is falling under the category of Boolean, none is falling under the category of special type. So this is how we can actually identify the literals and as well as the data types. When we're talking about data type, and in this case, any variable assignment you are actually doing, we can identify what is the type of the variable that becomes the data type, right? And in Python, if we categorize it like this, like data types, what we call it as, actually integer, float, string. Then we do have Boolean data type, we do have list data type, we are having tuple data type, like all these things. Okay, so those are like data types. Literals are the values. Data types are actual type of the variables. What type of the variable is? So ideally, this is actually the category of the data types and literals. So now let us go, like this is all theory. Then delimiters, I have already told you, we do have value separators are actually comma over here. Then we are using square brackets. For dictionary, we are actually using curly braces. For tuple, we are actually using parentheses. And then any block you want to actually write, you can actually specify like in a colon. Let's say, for example, if you are using a for loop, then it should actually the first for, like the line which is containing for, should end with a colon. Like similarly with if, the line should be if else or if elif, we are specifying colon, so to separate it. So those are nothing but the delimiters what we are actually using. Then the next topic was actually operators. We have gone through the example of arithmetic operators, assignment operators, various types of assignment. Then comparison operator. In comparison operator, guys, yesterday in like the previous session or yesterday session, I have actually told you about, let's say for example, number 1 equals to 10 and number 2 equals to 20. And if I say num1 not equals to num2, let's say for example, print num1 not equals to num2. In this case, it is actually going to return us as true. Instead of using, instead of not equal, we can use less than and greater than. This is also not equal. This is equivalent, right? Either you can use not equal or this one. This is also going to work. It is not like less than greater than. You should not actually read this way. You should read it as like not equal. Like if I'm specifying here like num1 not equals to num2, then it is also going to print it as actually true. So this is the assignment, and we'll run through a program. I'll just come back over here. And then what kind of comparison operators we do have? We do have under the comparison operator, we have for equal, it is double equal. Then not equal, we can actually specify not equal. And then for not equal also, we can actually use this. Less than, we can use less than. Greater than, we can actually use greater than. Greater than equals to, less than equals to. These are the operators what we can actually use. To correlate, if you are actually coming from a cell background, you can understand like this equal. This is actually a string type of comparison. Okay, so in cell also we do have string type comparison. For numeric type, it is hyphen eq. For not equal, it is hyphen ne. And then for less than, it is hyphen lt, like numeric comparisons. And these operators, we can use it for strings and as well as numbers. Let's say if I'm having like two strings, I can specify like this. Let me write a program. One moment. New Python file. I'm just giving like a string comparison. Just give me a second. Okay, so now here we go. I have a name Subhasis, and then name one. I have here like in a second. Okay, so if I'm specifying if both the names are same, print, I can specify name one, name equals to name one. This is also quite possible. What it is going to do, it is going to print, as true. Control Shift F10 in PyCharm, we can actually use it to run. So in this, sorry, it is going to print false because names are actually different. If I have name one and name two, and in this case, name one and name two, the values are actually second, I can specify over here like name one and name two. Okay, so in this case, name one and name two is going to return as true. This is going to return true, and this is going to return as false. Control Shift F10. Here we go. Now, if we want to do the same thing, let's say for example, if we want to check like if the names are different, I can either specify name one not equals to name not equals to name one. It should actually return as true, or else what we can specify here is we can specify name one not equals to name, and then this operator. Look at here, like what's happening. It is actually flagging. It could be error. Now Control Shift F10. Now here you see it is saying like name one, you cannot actually use this operator. Okay, fine. I'll just see like 10 not equals to 20. Now in this case it is also flagging as error. But if you try it with like Python 2.x, it is going to work as expected. In Python 3.x, you may not actually have this option because it is flagging. This we cannot actually use it because it's a syntax error. Okay, so in my case, I'm just using Python 3.10, and it is actually saying like flagging it as actually error. So don't try this. It is going to throw error. And then if you are actually going to check, let's say if, so not if, like print, because if I have not yet covered, if A less than B. If I'm giving A less than B. Now in this case, let us see like what is going to happen here. If I'm giving like A less than B, here it is saying it is actually true. If I say like V, if I say V less than A, it is actually going to return me as false. This one is true and this one is the false. Now if I'm running this program, here you can see it is actually returning as false. Now you can actually ask me how it is comparing with the less than operator. Guys, there are two functions. One is, let's say I'm just giving worthy, what it is going to give? It is going to give the ASCII value of any character. Let's say for example, worthy of A. If I'm going to give worthy of A and worthy of B, Control Shift F10 if you do, here you can see it is 97 and 98. Now 97 and 98, so 97 is less than 98. That is the reason why we are actually getting true. But in this case, we are saying like 98 less than 97. That is the reason why we are actually getting false. Let's say if you're actually already familiar with ASCII character like 65 to 97, or like now, let us see here, like I want to print the character value of 65. 65 is capital A. 65 is capital A. So now if I run Control Shift F10, here you can see it is actually printing capital A. Now if I want to print what is the character value of 87, 87 is this is the ASCII equivalent. And then let us see like now what is the character it is going to print. Control Shift F10. Here you can see it is actually printing CHR of 87. I'm just missing a parenthesis here. Guys, remember, like in this case, let me remove this out and then see like what is the error it is saying. It is saying, let us interpret this error message. It is saying like string comparison.py file, line number 25. Print statement is there. What is missing? The syntax error. It is saying like now it was never closed. That means you have actually opened it, but you have never closed it. It's remember, guys, understanding the error message is easy. You should have patience to read through the error message. The solution definitely you can able to identify. Let's say, for example, you are unable to identify the error message. What is next? Definitely, you can do a Google search to understand why you are actually getting this error message. You can actually understand it because if you spend time on few links, you can definitely identify what is the root cause by your own. Now, if I'm running this program, here I can see it is actually printing W. Okay, so now we are done with like comparison operators. Then the next one is actually the logical operators. I've already covered this, and, or, and not. These are three logical operators. Then next one is actually identity operator and membership operator. We are going to spend some time right now. Identity operator. What is identity operator? Identity operator is going to compare the identity of two variables or two identifiers. Okay, two identifiers. Let's say your ID operator example. Now here I'm having A equals to 200, B equals to 300, C equals to 300. Okay, now if I'm printing like now print ID of A, then print ID of B and print ID of C. ID of B and C will be same. ID of B and C will be same. ID of A will be 200, like not 200 because the value is 200, the ID will be different. But in this case, the values are actually 300. It is pointing to the same memory location. Okay. Internally, Python is actually storing this 300 in the memory. And when we are saying like now B should point to 300 or B is initialized to 300, then it is going to check if 300 is already there in the memory or not. If the 300 is already there in the memory, it is actually going to refer to the same location. So that is the reason why we are having the identifiers are actually same. Here you can see, sorry, the ID is same, okay, and the identifiers are actually different. We have different names like B and C, but they are pointing to the value 300. Where exactly it is pointing? It is pointing to the location here. You can see it is actually, in my case, it is actually ending with 008. Okay. So now, if I say to verify if IDs are actually same, here I can say if A is B. A is not B because A the identifier A's ID is ending with 472 and this ID belongs to the identifier B. So A is not B. So in this case it is actually false, going to print false. Now if I'm giving like print A is not B, A is not B, it is going to print as true because A is not B. Now I'm just going to print, I'm going to print A is C, B is C. In this case, it is going to print true because B and C having the same ID. And if I'm going to print B is not C, then in this case, it is going to print as false. Now Control Shift F10 to execute the program in Python. So here you can see identifiers are actually different for A and B. So that is the reason when I'm giving A is B, it is actually printing false. A is not B is giving us like no true. B and C, the identifiers are actually same. So that is the reason IDs are actually same. So in this case, you can see the B is C is returning true, B is not C is returning false. The real-time use cases, let's say you are dealing with like no two list. List is actually collection of elements. It could be anything. Now you want to identify whether you are actually referring to the same list or not. Then you can specify A is B. Okay. So in that case, you can actually use is and is not operator. Is and is not operator, and the category of this operator is known as identity operators. We are having is and is not. We can compare any objects, guys. In Python, doesn't matter whether it is a list or a string type variable or a numeric type variable or it is a dictionary type variable or anything. We call it as actual objects. So whenever your requirement is to identify whether the objects are actually same, using the identification operator, you can actually compare it, and we have having like no is not. Okay, Python is just English. So here you can see it is A is B, A is not B. Like that is the reason they have used like no is and is not. Now the next type of operator I'm just going to tell you that is known as membership operator. Python file, then membership operator. Let's say here I'm having like name equals to Subhasis Samantra. Here if I'm specifying like print, if I'm print here, if S membership operator is going to check a particular character, let us take a note first, like what is membership operator? Membership operator we are actually going to use in and not in. It could be the syntax says you can specify any string over here, string, you can specify any string or variable. And then you can use in or not in or not in. Then here you can specify any string or variable. Let's say I'm just specifying S in Subbu. These are like the strings. Y not in Subbu. Why not in Subbu? In this case, S in Subbu is going to definitely, it is a case sensitive one. If I'm giving like capital S here, it is going to give return as false. But in this case, it is small s, so it is going to return true. If I'm specifying, just for better understanding, I'm just using like S, capital S in Subbu. Here it is going to print it as false. Y not in Subbu is going to print as true. Now here I can say like Y in yes, it is going to return as true. If I'm having, let's say, string one, str1, or we can say like pattern, like grep, we are actually using grep command. If you are familiar with like grep command in Linux or Unix, grep is going to return you the matching lines from a file, or you can also join the grep command with standard output. Similar case, if you want to do the same thing over here, let's say I can actually tell you in my upcoming sessions how to read the content from a file and find out the matching lines. Like we can develop utilities, what grep is doing, we can do it using Python too. Now pattern, I'm just giving here, let's say pattern, I'm just giving like Subbu. And here I'm just giving string equals to, here I'm just giving welcome Subbu. Now here I can say pattern in string. pattern in string, it is going to give me false because it is case sensitive. If, because here you can see Subbu, here Subbu is actually capital case. Let us implement this in the program and try to understand how it is actually going to work. Now look at here. If I'm giving like the name Subhasis Samantra, now in this case, I'm just saying like S in name. Is S in name? It is going to print true or false. It is going to print true or false, only Boolean values. In this case, S is present, capital case S. It is saying like, it is present. If I want to use something like this, if S in name, and we can also use like logical operator, and X in name, it is definitely going to return as false. I'm just checking if S is present in my string, X isn't present in my string, true table, like the AND table, true, this one is true, this part is actually false. The second condition is false. Now, in this case, what's going to happen? True and false is actually false. Now, if I'm giving like print S in name and A in name and X not in name, in this case it's actually going to print as true because we do have S in name, that is capital case S is there 2 times, and A is in name, A is definitely there, and X not in name, that is also true. True and true is going to return as true. If I'm running this program, let us see like how it is going to work. So true, false and true. Let us do one thing. I'm just going to give, it is not like one character. We can actually search for any string as well. I'm just giving if Subbu in name. In this case, it is actually going to return me the actual false. Okay, if I'm giving print Subhasis in name, it is actually going to print true. Now let me run this. Control Shift F10. Here you can see it is actually returning false. The last one is actually true. Right? Real-time use cases. Let's say you are actually running some program and your requirement is to check the output like for certain matching patterns. You are hitting a website and the response code to be 200. If 200 is in response, then you can actually proceed with your logic. Let's say you are actually selecting some data from the database and you don't want to actually compare like in the particular value, you just want to check if in the result anywhere a matching pattern is present. Let's say if Amazon is in your result, then do some operation, else don't do any operation. Let's say for example you are actually calculating the salary, the monthly salary, and then going to like whatever the month salary will be credited for the employee accounts, but you are actually checking the designation should not be president because president salary will be credited separately. You can see if president not in whatever info you are having, then proceed with that logic. Okay, so in and not in. This is something which we are going to use it in a string operation. We are going to use it in tuple operations. We are going to use it in list operations. I'll just give you real-time examples, so don't worry about it. For now, just remember it returns a true value or a false value. Okay, so now let me give you another example. I'm writing small programs. It will be very easy at a later point of time. So you can actually refer and understand all the edge cases. Now, here it is membership operator example. I'm having pattern. This is pattern equals to error. Now, here I'm just going to check like pattern 1 equals to failed. Now here I'm having transaction response, or I can say like a T response, TRAN response, a small value transaction response. Response we can also use like an RSP code. Transaction response, I'm just specifying order ID 1234 status failed. Okay. Now transaction response 1 order ID 345 success. Now let us look at here. Now I am hard coding, but in real-time scenarios, we'll be actually reading either from database or we'll be actually reading the data from a file, then storing it in a variable, or we can directly on the fly also do the comparison. And we are going to check if error is present and failed is present. Here I'm just specifying print pattern in transaction response, if pattern in transaction response or pattern 1 in transaction response. If pattern 1 is there, like error is there or failed is there, we're checking like the transaction response here. So in the transaction response, failed is there, so it is actually going to return us actually true. Guys, remember, whenever we are actually doing this kind of operation or operation, first part is unsuccessful, it is going to return false. The second part, second condition is actually going to return us true because failed is present in the transaction response, so it is actually going to return us true. Now in the second case, like print, if pattern in transaction response 1 or pattern in transaction pattern 1 in transaction response 1, here you can see we do not have error, we do not have failed. That means it's a successful message, but in this case, this condition is actually going to return us as false. Okay, if I'm running this program, here you can see true and false. The real-time use case is you can read the content from a file or from a database, do the operations, and these statements we are actually going to write in conditional block, like if elif block or if else or if elif else block and all these things. Okay, I'm just going to tell you in details in the conditional statement execution. Hope you understood like the membership operators and membership operator. Identification operators you may or may not use in real time much, but membership operator will be definitely going to use every now and then to manipulate anything, manipulate the response codes, manipulate the data, manipulate the matching strings, matching patterns, matching lines, matching characters. All these things we can actually do. Okay, so now let us go back here. Then bitwise operator and augmented operators. I'll just tell you towards the end of this session what is bitwise operator, what is bitwise operators. So you may not use this in real time. You may not use this in the DevOps work actually. DevOps work, okay? But if you are actually using like bitwise operators, and yesterday I've actually in yesterday's session or previous session I've already mentioned like what are the use cases of bitwise operator, but it is good to know. I'm just going to tell you like the bitwise operator, and then we can actually do the operations. There is something known as XOR or XOR operations and all. So I'll just give you like a small example how it is actually going to work. So let us like proceed with augmented operators. Okay, in the augmented operator is something similar to this. Let's say for example, we do have a value like num equals to 10, and I want to add 2 to num1. What I can definitely do is I can specify num equal to num plus 2. Num equals to num plus 2, then the num value will become 12 here. If I'm going to print like print num here, then the value here will be like 12. If I'm having another print statement just before this operation I can specify here 10. Let us do this program differently. Okay, let us do this program differently. Now look at here. Now I'm having num equals to 10. Here instead of num equals to num plus 2, we can definitely use num plus equals to 2. Num plus equals to 2. This operator is known as augmented operator. If someone is saying you are in a call and they're saying like now why you are actually using this expression, instead of this you can actually use augmented operators. So this is augmented operator. So what it does here the meaning is add and assign. The meaning is add and assign. So plus and equal is known as add and then assign. That is, the value is 10 plus 2. Add it first, then assign it to num. So that is known as add and assign. And or you can say add and. This is actually known as add and, but the technical terminology is augmented operator. Okay, so what kind of augmented operators we do have? We have like equals to, minus equals to, star equals to, then division equals to, float division equals to, then exponent equals to, everything is possible. Let us do some programming in the augmentation operator. New Python file, augment operator. Okay, so in the augmented operators, let me here I'm just specifying num equals to 100. Okay, and I'm just going to do one thing, going to print. Okay, first let me do one thing. Here I'm just specifying num plus equals to 100, num plus equals to 150. Now print num. If you do this, you can actually see, you can see like 250 as result. Now, if I'm giving num plus equals to num plus, here I'm just giving num minus equals to 15 and then print num. So in this case, it is actually going to print 250, then 235. If I want to multiply it, then what I can do here is I can definitely execute multiplication into 2. In this case, it is going to become 470. If I'm running this program, it is going to print 250, 235, then 470. So this is also known as augmented operator. Now I want to do a division. Division of what? Let's say division by 4. This is like now divide by 4 and then assign. Here you can see a floating point number, right? 117.5. If I want to do a modular division, then here I'm just giving like a 2, and then here you can see F10. Here you can see the value is actually 1.5. Now, if I want to do like a num float division is double equals to, then I'm just specifying here 2 and then printing what is the value of num. Here you can see it should be 0. Why? Because num value is 1.5, we are trying to divide it by 2. So it is going to return 0 only. Okay, so this is how you can actually do it. Let's say, for example, if I want to do like if you want to do exponent, now print let's say num1. I'm just again assigning it like a num plus equals to 5, and then print num. Here the value will be like the last term value will be like 5. Then we can use num exponent and is it is going to exponent like 5 to the power 3 is actually going to print 5 to the power 3 is going to print 125. So this is like an exponent operator. Okay, so exponent and AND. So we can actually use augmented operators. Guys, remember there are actually few operators which you should know, and you should not tell like let's say for double equals to, so double forward slash is known as floor division. Floor division. Okay, and then if you are giving double this one, it is known as exponent. And if you are doing any operator equals to, let's say for example plus equals to, this is known as augmented operator. You can use any operator before the equal to symbol. Okay, that is known as augmented operator. So this is all about the operators. Now I'm just going to tell you some interesting operators over here, and let us do one thing. Let us get familiar with the expression. When I'm talking about expression, let's say I have a number 1 equals to 10, number 2 equals to 100. If I'm giving like print num1 plus num2 minus 20 plus 5. So this is nothing but a expression. This is nothing but a expression. Or to simplify it, I can definitely give like num1 plus num2. This is also expression. If I'm giving like num1 plus 100, this is also expression. So everything is here like this is also expression, this is also expression, this is also expression. Now, whenever we are actually doing expression manipulation, we should be very much careful. Why? I'm just going to tell you here. Okay. Now, num1 plus num2, here it is going to print 110, 110. But if I'm having, let's say, str1 is Subbu and str2 is Python. Here you can see like print. If I'm giving, okay, before understanding print, I can give like str3 equals to str1 plus str2. Guys, try to understand. Here, numbers 110, but here both the inputs are actually, both the variables like str1 and str2 are actually string type, and the first variable here is containing Subbu, and the second variable value, that is str2, is actually Python. If you do str3, it is actually going to become Subbu Python. Subbu Python, no space. And this is known as concatenation operator. If you're putting a plus between string, that is not addition of strings. Never ever tell like this is addition of strings. This is concatenation of strings. And whenever we do concatenation, it is not going to put a additional space over here. If I'm specifying like print str3, the result will be like Subbu Python. We can also do a print, let's say print, here I'm just giving str1 plus, giving like Sam. So the output here, it will become as Subbu Sam. When we are actually executing print str1 comma Sam, here the output will be Subbu Sam. There will be a space because here comma is separator, string separators. I've already covered it in the print, so not going to cover it again in details. So this is separator. So you may see the existing scripts. If you are having any Python scripts in your existing project, you can verify it. Sometimes concatenation is being used because concatenation is actually required. Sometimes you can see comma is used, you can see that is a separator, and the default string separator or value separator is space. So that is the reason why we are having space here. If I'm giving the same statement here and giving here like separator equals to colon, then it will be becoming Subbu colon Sam. Now the same program, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write it here. Now let me tell you here, Python, new Python file, and here I can say expression example Python file. Now look at here. If I'm running this program, here you can see the result. 110, Subbu Python, Subbu Sam, Subbu space Sam, Subbu colon Sam. As per your requirement, please take a decision and then accordingly you can do the manipulation. Whether you need a separator, whether you need a plus, whether you need a comma, and don't be confused. The difference is these three things are actually completely different. And the takeaway from this example should be whenever you are actually putting a plus sign, it is known as concatenation operator. Now let us move to the second example. Now I'm having here like the multiplication. Num star, then num2. Here it is going to give 1000. Okay. Now here I'm just giving Subbu, then Python. If I put a star, definitely error. This is not allowed. Error. Okay. Why error? We cannot multiply two strings. We cannot multiply two strings. But if my requirement is like I'm just printing something like this, like str4 equals to str3 into 5. This is allowed. And if I do print str4, it is going to print Python 5 times. Will print Python 5 times. Okay. So now, if I give something similar to this, let's say str5 equals to 3 into string 1, str1. This is going to give me Subbu 3 times. Okay, this is like Subbu 3 times. Subbu 3 times. And we're definitely going to get error here. I'm just going to comment it and we can uncomment and see it, okay, while writing the program. Subbu 3 times. If I do like print str of 5, it is going to print Subbu 3 times. Now, I have something like this. str6 equals to a 3 times plus b 5 times plus 6 times of x. This is allowed. Now if I'm giving like print of str6, it is going to print a 3 times followed by b 5 times followed by x 6 times. Let us see like how it is going to work. Now look at here. This is expression manipulation. New Python file, expression example 2. Look at here. If I'm running this program, here you can see the error message because we are missing a star over here. Okay, the Control Shift F10. Here you can see. Okay, let us see it here. Okay, sometimes while dealing with the program, you can see it here. Like it is saying in this file, there is a spelling mistake. Okay, there is a typo. Now here it is saying str4 equals to str3 into 5. There is a name error. str3 is not defined. Whenever you see this error, there are two edge cases. Either the str3 is not at all defined or there is a typo. It is saying str3 is not defined. Did you mean that str1? Why it is actually saying str1 not str6? Let us see where is the str3, because str3 we have commented it out, right? We have commented it out. Str3 we have commented it out here. So str4 is actually str3 into str5 is actually not working. So it should be str2 into 5 will print Python, right? It is str2 into 5. So it is actually print Python 5 times. Now str5 equal to 3 into str1, that is Subbu 5 times. Now it should actually work as expected. Here you can see Python 5 times, Subbu 5 times, and A and all these things you can see. And guys, you should actually remember while the replication, like this is known as replication or repetition operator. This is known as replication operator. It will replicate or it will repeat. It is also known as repetition operator or replication operator. If both are numbers, let's say in this case num1 equals to 5, num2 equals to 10, num1 asterisk num2, here the operation will be happening like the multiplication. If I'm having string 1 and string 2, let's say in my case string 1, or I can say like A star B, both strings not allowed, both are strings.
Devashish here. Actually, I have a question over here. Can we put a separator in the replication output?
Separator in the replication output, you want a space here, right? Here you want
Yes,
a
space.
space.
Yes,
Yeah,
space
so
and yeah.
what you need to do is you need to put a space here. You cannot actually specify during the replication that you need a space. You cannot specify replication during the, I'll just tell you like now how to do that, okay? I'll just
Okay.
come back to you. Word.
Okay.
So now let us see here. Let's say this one. In this case, we are actually printing like no str4 into 5, right? So what we can actually do here, we can definitely do something like this str plus, then you can specify a space here and into 5. And then you can definitely print str4. str4, and it is going to give Python 5 times with a space. If I put together here, I'm just moving to next script. Now look at here, Python file expression with space in the replication basically. Okay, here we can see Control Shift F10, Python, 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 and Python. Doubt is clear. Let us experience some error. Okay, let us experience some error. And the error message here, what we can actually specify is, let's say str3 equals to str1 into str2, both are strings. So the operation is actually replication or repetition is not allowed, both are strings. What is the error message we are actually going to get? Guys, remember here, what it is saying, it is saying the file number 13, the expression is str3 equals str1 and str2 cannot multiply sequence by non-int. Guys, remember string, list, tuple are known as sequence. Sequence is a data type. So under sequence, we are having three data types. So far I've covered only string. So string is also falling under sequence. We can also multiply a list. We can also multiply a tuple. That is quite possible. Okay. For your understanding, I'll just give you another example like the repetition, but I'll cover in details in the list and tuple section. Now it is saying like cannot multiply the sequence using non-int type str. Okay. So now here it is. This is the error message. I'm just copy pasting it here. Cannot multiply this error message we are actually going to get. So you can uncomment to experience the error. You can uncomment to experience the error. Okay, so now I'm just going to give one more example on replication operator. On replication operator, now Python new Python file. I'm just giving replication operator Python file. Replication is allowed in any sequence. That could be a list, tuple, or string. So don't worry about it. I did not cover in detail as I'm talking about replication right now. Let us have some small example here. Now, if I'm having a string str1 equals to name, equals to Subbu. Now print, if I'm giving str1 into 3, let's say list1, I'm just giving here I'm just giving this a list of alphabets. I can specify A, B, and C. I'm having three values in this list. I want to replicate it. I can specify print list1 into, let's say, 2 times. Or I have a tuple, let's say tuple1. In the tuples, we need to define the tuples using moon bracket. I am having a tuple of numbers. I'm having 11, 12, 13, 11, 12, and 13. And I want to multiply this by tuple 1 into 3. If you are appearing in interviews, if they are giving like this statements, I have a tuple, I'm just multiplying it. Is it going to return 33, 36, 39, or what is the result here? Or in this case, what will be the result? In the first case, what will be the result? If I'm having number, let's say for example, number equals 10, 10 into 3 is going to return 30. But if it is string, if it is a tuple, if it is a list, then replication or repetition is actually going to happen. You can see it here. Subbu printed 3 times. ABC printed 2 times because we are replicating 2 times. Then 11, 12, 13 is getting replicated 3 times. So the result here is 11, 12, 13, 11, 12, 13, 11, 12, 13. So this is known as replication. And during my session on list, tuple will definitely, and string as well. String, there is a separate section itself. In my training content, you can see string operations. Will be dealing with that. It may take 1 or 2 more sessions to understand the entire concept of string and entire manipulations of string. So this is known as the replication operator. Now, whenever we are actually doing plus is concatenation if both are strings. Stir if both are float or number and float number type, it is multiplication. If it is string types, one is string, other one is actual number, it is going to do replication or repetition. And then we do have, let's say for example, I'm having A plus B. If A, B are numbers, it is addition. If A, B are strings, it is concatenation. A asterisk B. If A is a string, B is a number, it is replication. If A is a number, B is a string, it is also replication. If A is a string, B is a string, error. If A is a number, B is a number, then it is a multiplication. Like A star B, strings are not allowed. It is only division. We do not have any string operation. We cannot use division operator. Then similarly, if you're giving A slash B, this is also an expression. In this case, it is float division, and we are expecting numbers. The number could be integer, float, or any any type of numbers. Basically, we are going to deal with integers and floats in this case. Now, if I want to specify A modulo division B, in this case, both should be number. We cannot use the string over here. So these are various types of expressions we are actually going to deal with. So this is known as expression manipulation. The last topic for today is multi-line comment and single line commenting. Many times I'm actually putting a comment line, but I didn't actually cover this topic specifically to tell, okay, this is a comment line. Let us have an example of comment line to understand, like, now what is a comment line? Here, comment example. Okay, so now here I'm just giving num equals to 10. Comment here, this is inline comment, because it is not starting with at the very beginning of the line. You can specify, let's say number equal 1 equals to 200. We can also specify a single, we can also use a single pound for commenting. As you are commenting in the same line, this is known as inline commenting. You can say, like, if I put, like, 5 pound signs here or 10 pound signs here, if you have time to put, like, 10 pound sign, you can definitely specify 1 or 2 is enough. 1 is more than enough. Okay. Now, comments can, like, any line starting with pound is known as comment. Let's say I want to comment, requirement is to comment, like, multiple lines. Let's say str1 equals to ABCD, str2 equals to XYZ. In this case, I want to comment the both lines. We do not have multi-comment options. We do not have multi-line comment feature using. In programming languages, we just use this block comment, right? So this is not there. This is not available in Python. In Java, we can use it. In C++, also we can actually use bulk commenting. But here we cannot actually use bulk commenting. So what we need to do, we need to explicitly comment the lines using pound, like this, pound and pound. Or we can actually comment using either 3 times single quotes or 3 times double quotes. Now let us look at here. Let's say 3 times single quotes here. I'm just specifying this is my comment. Name equals to hello. Name equals to hello. And then location equals to Bangalore. Okay, let us see. If I'm running this program, what is going to happen? Let us see. If I'm running this program, here you can see nothing is happening because we do not have any print statements here, right? So now, if I'm specifying name and location outside of this and say, like, print name, then location, definitely we are going to get error. What is the error message we are going to get? It is going to tell us that name and location is not defined. Why? Because this is commented. If you uncomment this line, here you can see name and location commented using triple semicolon, so triple single quotes, okay? And this triple single quotes or triple double quotes, also known as duck string, documentation string. While covering functions or classes, I'm just going to tell you, like, what is the use case of this duck string. So now here you can see when I'm running, like, print name and location, it is actually going to throw error. Okay, so now I'm just going to give uncomment the following line to experience error. Okay, so if you want to see the error, you can actually do that. So this is like how the comment line is actually going to look like. Number one, in this case, this is known as inline comment. This is any line starting with pound is a comment. Whenever requirement is to comment multiple lines, we do not have a concept of bulk commenting. What you can actually do, you can definitely comment it using like a single pound or multiple pounds. And whenever the need is, like, let's say the real time use cases, you want to actually comment 100 lines or 200 lines, then do not actually spend time putting a pound before, like, each line. Instead of that, what you can do is you can actually comment it using like duck string, basically, like either triple single quotes or triple double quotes. So we are done for today.